It started like any other quiet Saturday morning up in the mountains. Sunlight just pouring through the pines and the cabin still creaking and settling as the day warmed up, birds raising a ruckus out in the valley. And Anna, my wife, already humming in the kitchen, pouring water over the good coffee beans because, well, some things you just don't mess with. I was on the porch double-checking our motion cameras, not because we're those tinfoil hat folks, but because out here you learn the difference between prepared and paranoid. The real reason for the cameras, though, had a name: Janice. If you've ever had a neighbor who tries to run the whole block like some tiny mayor, you know the type. Except Janice didn't just want control, she wanted worship, and she didn't let little things like laws or reality slow her down. See the HOA around here? Dead and buried 5 years before we bought in. But Janice must have missed the memo, because she printed up her own violations like unsanctioned shrubbery height or non-conforming paint tones and just stuffed them in people's mailboxes like a discount mailman with a badge she'd run off on her home printer. She lived 3 cabins down, and it was like she kept binoculars glued to her head. Routine inspections, she'd say, stomping up to the edge of our property with a clipboard and that tight, joyless smile. We never gave her the satisfaction of a scene. Just told her calm as we could manage, "Janice, this isn't your business," and left it at that. But you could feel her waiting. And sure enough, that Saturday, just as Anna handed me my mug and the world felt halfway peaceful, we heard gravel pop. I looked out and there it was. Her battered blue Subaru, an old HOA magnet barely clinging to the door, idling in the morning sun like she'd been circling all night. Out she stepped, sunglasses flashing, clipboard at the ready, the whole act dialed up to 11. Morning, she called with a smile so forced it almost hurt to look at. "Just need to do a walk-through standard procedure." Anna didn't budge. She stepped right in her path. "Cool as you please, Janice. There's no HOA. You are not coming up here." Janice blinked, held up a laminated ID like she was about to serve me a warrant for jaywalking, and said, "I have authority." Anna shot back, "From where your Canon printer." For a second, I thought Janice might actually try to run past her, but then her eyes caught the camera over the door and she froze like a deer. Right then, the scene turned sideways. A sheriff's car rumbled up behind her Subaru. I'll never forget the way Janice's mouth went slack and the clipboard almost slipped from her hand. The deputy, sunglasses on, got out and called her by name. "Ma'am, I need a word with you. There's a warrant out of Jefferson County." Anna's jaw hit the floor and I just about dropped my mug. Janice tried to laugh it off. She actually said, "You must have the wrong person. I'm respected in this community." But the deputy had no patience for drama. He checked her name and birth date, then told her, "You're wanted for fraud, falsifying documents, trespassing." Her face went so pale it was almost see-through. Anna whistled under her breath. Guess that badge wasn't just from Staples after all. Now, if you're picturing Janice trying to talk her way out of it, you're right. She kept insisting, "My husband's a lawyer. You'll all regret this." The deputy stayed calm, told her she'd have her phone call at the station, and gently, but with no room for argument, took her arm. For a second, I thought she might run for the woods, but she just sort of wilted. "This is harassment," she hissed. "No, ma'am," the deputy replied. "It's the law catching up." Watching that sheriff's car disappear down the road, Anna and I didn't feel like celebrating. We just stood there listening to the mountain quiet settle back in. I thought it was over. I really did. But the longer we stood on the porch, the more I got that itch, the one that tells you something's not right. Anna leaned on the railing, eyes never leaving the gravel. "You think she's finished?" I shook my head. People like her never think they're finished. Not until someone changes the locks. That afternoon after lunch, I found myself drifting down the road toward Janice's cabin. Curiosity, I guess. Maybe a touch of wanting to make sure she was really gone. Her place was tucked behind a mess of brambles she always called preservation hedges. I wasn't about to trespass, but when I saw the back shed door hanging wide open, wind rattling it like it was about to come off, I figured I'd better call the sheriff. "Place is unsecured," I told dispatch. "She just got picked up. Maybe you want to check for break-ins." They said a deputy would swing by eventually, so I waited, didn't want some teenager to loot the place. That's when I heard a cabinet slamming inside the shed. I froze. Janice should have been in custody. So who was in there? I called out. Hello, and out came this guy mid-50s, balding windbreaker with a grease stain holding a box of papers like it was about to explode. He tried to play it cool. You from down the hill, he asked. Yeah, I said. And you? He hesitated. Then I'm her cousin, just grabbing some stuff for her. Sheriff said it's fine, but I could see his hands shaking. Funny. I told him they told me nobody's allowed in yet. He glared, then got aggressive. You calling me a liar? I just backed up. Nope, I'm calling the sheriff again. That was all he needed. He dumped the box, sprinted to a rusty pickup, and tore down the road so fast gravel hit my boots. 20 minutes later, the deputy showed up. I explained everything pointed to the shed. He peeked in, saw the box, and let out a long whistle. Sir, you might have walked into something bigger than some HOA mess. He pulled out a manila folder, Community Financial Oversight Board scrawled on the front. This is fraud on a county level. These aren't real documents, none of them. Looks like she was forging tax assessments, billing people for fake HOA violations, threatening liens if they didn't pay. I just stood there dumbfounded. She's been scamming the whole mountain. Looks like it, he muttered, stuffing the folder in an evidence bag. We've got complaints like this from other counties, always with a woman matching her description. And the man in the windbreaker could be her partner, he said. We'll check traffic cams. That night, Anna and I sat in front of the fire trying to piece it all together. Janice with her fake badge, her made-up board, her parade of phony citations. She'd fooled everybody. If she hadn't gotten so bold, Anna said she might have gotten away with it. I nodded. If you hadn't stood in her way, who knows what she'd have planted inside or claimed. It was hard to sleep, even knowing she was in custody, because now it wasn't just about us. We could feel how deep this thing went. And boy, were we right. Over the next week, neighbors started showing up 4, then 5, then 8 each with a story about Janice's mandatory maintenance invoices. 2 had paid her scared she'd sue or slap a lien on their cabin. 1 paid $900 just to avoid property suspension. Most were embarrassed until the sheriff told them what really happened. Turned out, Janice had pulled in thousands over the past year, running her scam in other rural spots before ours, always targeting quiet, spread-out places where no one double-checked her threats. In the end, the county prosecutor charged her with multi-jurisdictional fraud, impersonating a public official, and trespassing, and they hinted there was more coming. Anna stood on the porch at sunset, watching the pines glow red. Funny, she said she spent all that time making us out to be the villains. Turns out the real monster was on her own clipboard. I wrapped my arm around her, and for the first time in months, the only sound was the wind through the trees and a squirrel chattering like he wanted to give the closing statement. So that's how 1 block driveway, 1 real badge, and a single neighbor with too much time on her hands brought down a little mountain kingdom built on fear and fake forms. You think Janice got what was coming to her? Or is this just another sign that small-town justice isn't as simple as we wish it was? Let me know. Drop your take in the comments, hit that. Like if you think karma landed a clean punch, and share your own neighbor stories. Because out here you never know whose rules you're really living by until the whole thing comes crashing down.